Welcome to Two Guys Whining About Retirement. It's the only place you're going to find a review on a bottle of wine and get some great financial advice along the way. I'm Troy Frazier. I'm a financial advisor. And with me today, my co-host, wine aficionado, and do-it-yourself investor, Mr. Bryan Rose. Bryan, welcome.
Good. Great introduction. I appreciate that. More of a sidekick and do-it-yourself for both on the wine and the investing. So we'll see how this goes. It's a grand experiment, but I'm having fun. Thanks for having me.
That's why I picked you up off the street and had you co-host with me.
Perfect.
Hey, just a little sneak peek on what we're going to do today financially is we're going to talk about Social Security today. It's a hot topic. People come in all the time. They've heard various myths and legends and things about Social Security. They're afraid it's going to go away. Some people are saying don't even include it in my planning. So we're going to talk a lot about Social Security, how to choose the right way, and the right way may not even be the best way for you. And I'll go over kind of how my clients see that and everything. Now, if you're living just on Social Security, you got to make sure you choose your wine carefully.
Do.
And today, I understand, we were talking a little bit off camera before we started, that you've paired, much like we would go to dinner and they would, is it the sommelier? Is that what
Sommelier.
Sommelier,
I believe.
And how they would pair a wine with your meal.
Correct.
You've paired a wine with Social Security that we all can afford.
I have.
Hopefully, perfect.
It drinks much above its price point.
Nice. Okay, so we're going to start out with that, and then we'll get to the boring Social Security stuff. But let's get to the alcohol first.
Oh, great.
And tell us about the wine that you bought. Now, we've already uncorked this and poured it just for time's sake. So, Bryan, take it away.
For sure. So we have a 2019 San Gregorio Tempranillo. Tempranillo is a Spanish grape, so this hails from Spain. The good folks at Total Wine helped me pick this out. I have not tried this before, but I love Tempranillos, and this is a stunner. It's high quality for the price. You can't go wrong. Gets 90 points from James Suckling. He's an expert in old world wines. And to quote him, a rich layered Tempranillo with loads of fruit and juicy tannins, chocolate and walnut undertones, full-bodied and flavorful, and I think he hits on every point. Very smooth, nice finish. It's just tasty.
Or you waiting on me? Yeah, sorry. I'm over here just drinking away over here.
It's obvious you like it.
I want to make sure I hit the Social Security points right on.
There you go. All right.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, I can. I'm not real good sometimes at determining the small. I'm a horrible wine drinker. I'm a good drinker. I'm just not real determining the different flavors and those things in there. But I definitely get a little chocolatey flavor after a couple of drinks and that walnut kind of in there. So. Okay, absolutely. We'll reserve our final opinion because I think, as always, I give the wine a fair chance during our presentation today. I drink it along the way and then we can rate it at the end. Is that fair?
Sounds great.
All right. So we're going to talk about Social Security.
Perfect.
And Social Security originally, it was made so we weren't living as long. 65, 67, we were taking that dirt nap, checking out by that time, and so it was never designed to go as long as we're living now. So there's definitely going to have to be some changes made there within the system. We've got, back then we had more people putting in than we had. Now we've got less people putting in and more people drawing out of it.
Right.
It's not a good combination for sustainability.
So on that note, what is the life expectancy of Social Security?
Well, you read all of these things, and they say by 2034. I don't have the exact updated numbers right now that we're going to be down to 75%. But Bryan, as you watch the Congressional Budget Office, the CBO, they're pretty bipartisan. You can they're pretty accurate in their numbers and things, but most people don't go to their website and read their stuff. But when you look at all of the things that they're studying right now with Social Security, I believe that there's going to be a few changes they're going to have to make. And they're really studying people 55 and less. So it's really going to be people like you and I. I always joke with my client, because my average client's about 67 years old.
Okay.
And so I always joke when they're out cruising and they're on vacation, I'm like, hey, did you have fun spending my Social Security?
Nice.
Hope you enjoyed that trip.
I'm sure they love it.
Oh, they do.
I'm sure
They think
love
it's
it.
funny. They think it's hilarious they're spending my Social Security. Look, I'm kind of cynical. What's Congress's number one job?
That's a good question. I wish I could answer that.
To get reelected.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
you.
Look, that senior block is the number one voting block out there.
For sure.
And to see Social Security go away altogether, I just can't see where that would happen, because I think that would turn over Congress. They would all lose their jobs, no matter how long that they've been there. Okay, now call me cynical, but that's kind of how I feel about it. So, they made about 3 years ago or so, they made a change to the CPI, or the inflation adjusted,
Right.
How it's inflation adjusted, okay?
Sure.
And so I think that's the change for the people taking Social Security right now. I don't think they're going to see any other changes.
I'm hearing a lot about, like, this is going to be the biggest raise in 40 years. Is there any truth to that?
I haven't really heard anything to that, but I think what you're going to see is somebody's going to have to step up to the plate, and they'll do it last minute. So I think we're still probably 10 years off before anybody's going to have the guts to do anything.
Yeah.
But you're going to see our retirement age is going to go up, our full retirement age, right? They're going to do.
No, they did that to me once.
Yeah,
Are they going to do it again?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The calculation will probably change. We'll get a little bit less. And I think that, because right now, on your paycheck for the working folks out there, you've got a limit. You're unlimited on Medicare, right? On what you pay, the taxes on that.
For sure.
Social Security, you're capped. And then after that,
Right.
I think they're going to get rid of that too. So it'll be unlimited. I think when you start dialing those three things in, you adjust the ship pretty well, and then it kind of cruises on. So I don't see it going away. But look, that's my opinion from everything I read in the CBO office there.
Okay, that's great. So, what is the best age for me to take Social Security?
Yeah, look, and this is a very, don't take this advice that I'm giving you here, because every situation is different. And that's really where you have to go through a planning process, right? And understand it. And here's what I'll tell you. Generally speaking, the highest earner between the couple, we're going to have them delay until 70. Because they get as much as they can.
I was wondering about my wife.
Because between about your full retirement age and 70, you got about an 8% increase every year in your payment, okay? And then the spouse will generally take it at full retirement age or somewhere in there, and then there's some little things we can do in planning. But the reason we take the highest one at 70 is because, think about this, and a lot of planners miss this when they're doing the planning for individuals. So you get out, and your spouse dies when you're 85. One of the spouses dies, okay? And now what happens in death is the lower of the two goes away, and I'm simplifying this because there's a calculation, but the lower of the two goes away, and then you keep the higher of the two. So for cost of living adjustments, everything, you want that higher number at 70, because that's the survivorship for both spouses, right? So then what happens, okay,
Gotcha.
This is what most advisors miss. Not only did you lose one of your Social Securities, but because you're no longer now married, your tax bracket basically doubles, because now you're filing single. And you may have lost another pension along the way, or some other forms of money. So you really, to get this, what I always tell people, because you and I have been talking about this 5-step process that we do called the Fearless Retirement Roadmap.
Right.
And Social Security planning is included in that with all of your other assets. So really you need to see the big picture before you can plan that one item in there to go through that. So if that's something that you're setting out there, whether you're a client or somebody joined us for the first time, what you want to do is go to myfearlessretirement.com. I'm sure it's appearing on your screen right now, myfearlessretirement.com. And what will happen is you can sign up there for a 15-20 minute consultation with me, and we'll go through kind of that roadmap, see if we can help you. And everybody that calls in and says Social Security, or does that and tells me Social Security, we're going to give you a free report on how Social Security. Now, I need your, you can go to ssa.gov and they'll give you your benefit estimate statement.
Oh, okay.
And what
Yes.
you're going to do is send those over to me. And I'm actually going to run a retirement report. We normally charge $375 for this, but we're going to do it for free. So for anybody that calls
Good
in
value.
from this, or I'm sorry, goes to the website and signs up for the consultation, we're going to give that no obligation free to them. And that's going to show you the best way for you to take it, and then give you some other alternatives.
So will we look? So we'll look at the entire picture, not just Social Security. We'll look at everything, all of my investments, to really determine if I've got the balance to meet my needs.
Yeah, absolutely. Because here's the thing: what people miss, they go, "Hey, my Social Security's this," but if your Social Security's $30,000 a year and you need $42,000 or $60,000 a year, how is that other money generated? And so we'll look at that and look at your assets. We'll show you if you're on track to be able to make it from there, how that all plays in with inflation and all of those types of things in there.
Yeah, because I'd like to circle back because I wasn't entirely clear about the. I understood you talked about some sort of 8% elevator or what related to age. Can you cover that again real quick?
Yeah, so at your full retirement age, it'd be anywhere from 60, 67 years old.
So I think mine's 67.
Okay. And so what will happen is at 67, if you take it then, you'll get to what's called your FRA, your full retirement. Okay? Your full retirement
Sure.
there. Now, if we can delay that, every year we're able to delay that, your benefit's going to grow about 8% a year and get higher. So let's just say, for instance, if you're able to get around $2,500 a month at your full retirement age.
Okay.
By age 70, it's probably going to be right around about $3,400.
Okay.
So that's a big, that's a big jump. Absolutely.
For sure.
And so if some people have the assets that can get them through it, some don't have the assets. Some people don't believe that Social Security is going to be there, so they want to take it sooner than later. Yeah. The problem with that is you have to really look at your assets, look at survivorship, because what happens, you're going to find that most analysis between a married couple are going to break even between about 78 and 82 years old.
Got it.
So if from 82 to 90, that's where my big upswing is of what I get, and you think you're only going to live to 83, most of my clients will say, Troy, I know that's the way to get the most to do it that way, but I'd like to have a little more money now while I'm alive and I can spend it, not when I'm drooling on my pillow.
It makes sense, yeah.
And so
but sometimes that just happens anyway, regardless of age.
Right. So. We can't control that, But so those are the things that we go through. So I show you mathematically, under all the rules and regulations and all the nooks and crannies, how to squeeze every dime out of Social Security for you and your family based on an age that you potentially could die. Now then what we have to do is overlay your belief. Troy, I'm only going to live, look, I got a heart condition. I've been given 12 months to live, or I'm going to live to be 75. Well, are we trying to do the most for you, for the spouse, for survivor? Then we get into doing that calculation.
Okay. Well, you mentioned survivor there. How is a death benefit determined?
Yeah, so if you're a married couple, and your spouse passes away, you're going to get the greater of the two Social Securities. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, believe it or not, if you're divorced, it's done a little bit differently. I've got some clients that have been married longer than 10 years 3 times, and so you've got to have been married at least 10 years to be eligible for this.
Wait. Okay, I got
you. Yeah, they've been married.
I can do that math.
So instead of like the one, I got my great couples that have been married 50, 60 years. Yeah. They just married different people for 10 years each, right? Got in there, and but what happens there is that upon death of one or the other, you can actually pick and choose between who made more, who's got a better death benefit, really? Who's got a higher Social Security, those things, and it does not affect that person or their spouse that they have at the time or anything. We all have 2 Social Security benefits.
Okay.
One based on our own working record and one based on our spouses. And if you've been married more than 10 years, your ex-spouse comes into play of that.
Okay.
And so it can get kind of complicated there. And Social Security really won't tell you anything about that until you're actually able to draw Social Security and you're there. So those are things that we look at in planning, because if you've got a spouse, one may have not earned a whole lot, one did earn.
Right.
You may be able to draw off of that other spouse's as long as you're not married.
That's key. So my wife was working, earning, made the decision that she wanted to stay home for a while, and now is back in the workforce. Yep. So I was always wondering how that would play out.
Right.
Great.
Yep. Nope. Absolutely.
Okay. So say I'm at to the point. Okay, we've run all the math. I'm hit that full retirement age, or age 70. Who do I contact to get my money? Like, how much lead time's involved? When can I get my pause on that?
Right. Usually they say about 3 months before is when you want to go and file for that 3 months before. Now, you can go online or you can go in person. I got to tell you, I believe that Social Security is one of the most underrated assets in a person's portfolio. Between you and your wife, Laura, I mean, when you take a look at it, over the span of your lifetime, it could be another $1 million in your portfolio of income over that time. And
because that's not an asset, but that's an income equivalent.
Yeah, but I consider that an asset if it's going to give me money coming in the door. I mean, look at that's why I say it's the most underrated, because that's why people think about it, right?
Okay.
And so going online and doing something with $1 million asset, I'm old school. I like to walk in. I want to look that person in the eye. I want to look at them and have they been there 2 days and the things they're telling me I don't really buy? Or are they doing, we give our clients an actual map. This is how you're going to do it. This is what day you're going to go in. This is what you're going to tell. I mean, we give them a script basically of what to say to go in. I just think this is too important to do it online, each to their own for you. But like I said, I'm kind of old school. It's like my grandmother, even when the ACHs came about and you could just pay your stuff online, she'd still show up at the electric company and hand them the bill and the money.
Wow.
Right? I mean, that's
classic.
So I'm kind of old school like that. I like the face-to-face relationship and be able to evaluate the person I'm talking to. I think it's too big of a decision.
Very good. Well, it's been very informative. I've learned a lot. Thank you much. But I think it's now time to maybe, have a little bit more
Really? Nothing else on Social Security? You think that we covered it all?
I got it. You covered it, man.
I do. There's one thing that we missed.
Okay.
And I know there's probably others out there. You got other questions.
For sure.
But we missed when Social Security is taxed. And I know a lot of my clients ask me about working and what's those thresholds.
It's the wine.
So there you go. So I want to cover a little bit of that. If you're still working out there and you're taking Social Security, once you get to your full retirement age, your FRA, like we talked about yours at 67.
FRA, right.
There is no extra tax on Social Security. It's just the normal, however it applies on your 1040 there and how you do it. But if you take it early, say at 62 and you're still making money, and I got my little cheat sheet here because I want to make sure I got it right. And this changes every year for cost inflation adjustment. Yep. But in 2021, you can make up to $1,580 a month, and it will not affect your Social Security earnings if you're between the ages of 62 and full retirement or on disability and those things before your full retirement age. Now, if you're making more than $1,580 a month, you are going to be penalized $1 for every $2 over that you're making. It's a 2-for-1 deal.
So what do you mean penalized? Like
what happens is there actually, for every $2 you make over $1,580 a month, they're going to take $1 of your Social Security benefit and not pay you that. Oh. Now, here's what happens. That's not forever. That's until you get to your full retirement age, your FRA, right? You're 67.
For sure.
So once you get to 67, they're going to take all those working years and all of that you lost, they're going to recalculate it, and you're going to get it back in those payments from 67 on. There's a recalculation that goes into that. Now, look, I've had some people come to me, and they're making $3,000 a month or whatever. Look, they're not getting any of their Social Security. There was no reason to start taking Social Security at that point because you're not going to get it. Right. Okay. And so you have to, look at those things before you file and take a look at that.
So now how do they determine income? Is that like straight, income from an employer, or how does dividend income factor into it, or what are the differences? I'm going to grab that.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's earned income. That's going to go into that.
Okay.
dividends can play in. There's a whole calculation that goes into that,
Okay.
Brian. So it's a little too depth to get into here. That's going to get a
Understood.
little more tax planning.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's $15.80 a month. Let's kind of leave it at that. If you've got things that are getting more than that, you just need to come in, sit down with us, have us go over that with you, or connect up so we can go over that in the tax return and see how that's coming into play.
You kind of missed that in the DIY side.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's a learning.
Yep, absolutely. So education can be expensive,
Yeah, it can be.
sometimes, because not all the information is out there and correctly. But we've got softwares that can do that. Now, there's also online. I was looking here. There is a retirement earnings test calculator that you can plug those things into that the IRS has set, or the Social Security Administration has set up. And so we'll bring that website up right here that you can go to for that earnings test if you want to take a look at it. But really, if you flip over to myfearlessretirement.com, we do all of those things for you. Our software puts all of that in, looks at that, plans it with your other income, those types of things to help you out so you dot the I's and cross the T's.
Perfect.
That's why I keep bringing you over as a compared from the DIY side.
I got it.
The other thing I wanted to touch on, and we didn't look at people that have federal pensions, or what I come across most is teachers.
Okay.
And what happens with teachers or people that have not paid Social Security in, they fall into what's called the Windfall Elimination provision and then the government pension offset. So I want to cover those two things. The Windfall Elimination provision changes the calculation. If you've got, some people will have a corporate job and then go into teaching, or the opposite. And the more years you paid into Social Security at different levels, what they call substantial income, and there literally is just a chart. It looks like this, that you go year to year and you look to see what Social Security you paid that year.
Sure.
And if you've got 30 or more years in with your teaching, you're going to get both your teaching pension and Social Security. Anything below that, the Windfall Elimination provision is going to come in with a calculation. And for so much of your pension, you could end up not getting any Social Security at all. So there are some tricks of the trade. Let's say you're a teacher and you're not going to get anything, and so you work until 65 or whatever. We can turn on that Social Security early, start getting some of that before you declare your pension. And then you can get money from Social Security. Now, the other thing is the government pension offset. The Windfall Elimination provision affects your Social Security. The government pension offset affects your survivor benefit. So now, spouse died, you're going to get the other spouse's Social Security. The government pension offsets, and there's this 2/3 calculation, and quite honestly, it could reduce your Social Security that you're getting from there. And that's why, and now you've lost almost both Social Securities, or 1.5 Social Securities. Taxes then double because that's why you've got a plan to make sure maybe there's another vehicle that's going to give you income down the road, those things, maybe tax-free income because your taxes are going up. So that's why the planning piece is so important.
Absolutely.
In there with the Social Security. But don't abuse this $1 million asset. Give it the attention it deserves. Speaking of attention.
Speaking of attention, yes, you're a little behind. It's nice.
Perfect. I think we are. Any other questions?
No, I think you covered it, and then some. Some topics that I never came across in all my readings. But it was great information. Thank you.
Good. Let's give it our cork rating. Cheers.
Cork rating.
And what do you say about it?
Again, the value for the price, the drink for the price, it's fantastic. I'd give it a 4.5 out of 5.
Wow, I'm impressed by that. Here again, I'm getting a little, and I don't know if that's the I don't know enough to say if that's the tannins or what it is. I'm getting a little aftertaste in the back of my throat that's not making me feel as good about it. And so I'm going to give it a 3.5 corks.
3.5, okay.
Out of the 5.
Okay.
But again, for the price, the money, it's still worth picking up and give it a try.
I handicap on the price value. So.
Okay. Well, if anybody's seen me golf, they know I need all the handicap I can get. So.
Fantastic.
All right, Brian. Thanks again. Cheers to another episode of Two Guys Whining About Retirement. The only place where you're going to get a review on a bottle of wine and some great financial advice. We'll see you next week.